Hello. So I'm going to be showing you how to edit bindings in the steamVR manage tracker screen. You can basically go to controller bindings, and this is the graphical version. They also have one in the steamVR menu itself. So basically, you're going to go here and click on the app, click edit. One thing to note, every time you change anything, if you're in game, if VRChat's open, it's going to pop you back to a screen that says controller bindings not set. You have to click OK, and every time you change anything at all, it's going to force you to go back in here. You can simply right click and say right to left to go forward. Left to right takes you back. It's a bit of a weird right click menu, but it makes it kind of easy to navigate if you know about it. So anyway, so what we're going to try to do here is we're going to try to swap the application buttons. So what happens is when you open, let's say, your left controller, it's going to pop up a little menu in front of it. And that menu is going to, you can't really control that menu with the same controller you used to open it. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to swap them. So basically when you push this button, it's going to open the menu on the right controller. You can point to it with the same controller you used to open the menu. It actually makes navigating things a lot easier in VRChat, and so highly recommend it, even if you are not playing with one controller. So yeah, we're going to scroll down here, and we're going to go here. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to try to select the right application menu button. Now make sure not to push the one that says touch. We're going to look for the one that says just button. So you can see here we're on the left application menu button. We're going to scroll down here and find the same thing, but for the right controller. So here you can see we have the right application menu button. So, and for this particular thing, we're going to do it on both controllers. And the reason is because we simply want to allow it so if you have the wrong controller on or your left and right mixed up, you can still get into the menu. So it's kind of a nice thing in general, even if you're not playing with just one controller. All right, so next up, we're going to want to bind the trigger. So one thing that happens is when you T-pose, you actually have to stand, you're going to see your avatar in third person, you have to stand in your avatar, and you have to push both triggers at the same time. Well, this is a bit of a problem if you only have one controller. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a creative use of the grip button. And basically, we're going to be able to use the grip button to activate the trigger on the other controller. Now, one thing to know about the trigger is it's an analog button. It's actually, and so that's what is going on here. This left trigger value is actually the analog component, and that's what VRChat's using. So we're going to want to go here to the grip and add an analog action in order to activate an analog component. Now, you have to be a little quick with this thing. Basically, as soon as you click the plus button, it's going to kick you out to the controller bindings after a couple of seconds if you're not careful. So watch closely. We're going to click plus, and we're going to click set analog action from the menu that pops up. So right here, you saw it. I was very fast about that. Just that's what's going on. So now we're going to want to choose the right trigger value suggested. It's a nice suggestion. We're going to control the value of the right trigger, again, the analog component, which is what VRChat uses, using the left grip button. So this is going to not work immediately. So once you click right trigger value, it's going to conflict with the click action we assigned to the left grip. So if you see here, yeah, it's going to push the trigger in all the way, which is great. And the problem is we now have this thing here that's click action for the left grip button. And what we need to do now is you can actually assign different types of button presses. So they have click, but you can also edit it and choose right here. You can choose more options, and basically you now have access to double click, long, and held. Now, one thing to note, so both the single and the held, they both have the problem that they override the click, because those are both things that happen on click. So you have to find things that can be done sort of later than the first click. So basically double clicks and long are both good things to use. Long is basically holding it for a while, and I prefer long for using the grip because I have gestures that activate in long. So now we're going to go to the long press, and we're going to try to find the left grip button here. So now we've assigned left grip button to long press. Now, one thing we might want to do is be able to access the grip on the right hand. You don't really need this for VRChat because you can actually, like, let's say you pick up an item, you can actually transfer it to your other hand and then release it a lot of the time. But if you want to do that, we can go here to double, and we're going to go to double, and you're going to choose right grip button there. And so that's basically going to give us the 2 grip buttons and the right trigger all off one simple grip button on the controller. So we basically made a single button really powerful. And that's basically going to give us access to most of what we need to use VRChat. You can now open the menu, you can now T-pose, you can pick up items from both hands, even though you don't have a controller in one hand. You can drop items, and that's most of what we need. What we're going to do now is we're going to go and try to save this binding. So let's go down here. Yeah, I'm just showing it to you one more time. So we're going to go here and press Save Personal Binding down here at the bottom. And you can type in a name, just whatever you want. Go and type one-handed controller, click Save. It's going to lag a little bit. It's going to kick you out. And here you go. That's our binding. So now I'm going to show you a binding I created. So it's basically the same thing we just did together, but it's going to have an extra thing here. So I actually was a little bit more creative with the trigger. So I wanted to be able to jump. And the problem is we're using the left controller for basically all of the control we're doing. And the left controller has a D-pad to walk, but it doesn't have any way to jump. So what I'm going to do actually is again use this analog action to move the right thumb pad to go forward, which is how you jump in VRChat. You have to tap forward on the D-pad. And I'm going to use a double-click action to actually push the trackpad, because you actually can only do one thing for a given button press. So it's again kind of the same trick we used. We're going to assign an analog action, and instead of a single click event, we're going to assign double click. And so basically the important thing to see was that it was value and press, just like there. So essentially value is the analog action, press is the act of actually clicking the button. So here we have thumbstick press. All right, so I'm going to show you how to set up full body tracking with only one working controller. I'm going to assume for this tutorial that you already have Playspace Mover installed, as well as OpenVR Input Emulator, which is based on. So yeah, so basically to make this work, we're going to have a copy of Playspace Mover that I'm going to call Playspace Mover Fake Trackers. It's a shortcut to Playspace Mover. You can just sort of create a shortcut and then drag it into your start menu, make it easy to start up. And the important part is just these two options. We're going to add -- fake trackers and -- body height. You can put some body height here. It really doesn't matter that much for this tutorial because we're going to force the controller into the correct height. I made it 3, which is like way taller than I am, so it's going to create 2 extra controllers we're not going to use. And they're going to go way below the steamVR play space, so they're kind of out of the way. So yeah, that's what this is. But before we start this, we've got to first turn on all of our controllers and gadgets. It's very important that you turn on the real controller first and that you turn on the real trackers before creating fake trackers. Otherwise, VRChat will make you T-pose using the fake trackers, and you're actually not going to get to use your real trackers properly. So let's do this. So we're going to now go and start our Playspace Mover with fake trackers. See what this does. I'm going to create 3 more trackers. It's running correctly, and I think we're all ready to go into VR and start configuring stuff. So I'll see you there. All right, so we're in VR, and if you can see, we've got our extra fake trackers, which actually look like Vive controllers. That's actually a good thing for us in our case. And we've got our 3 real trackers and my 1 real controller. So first things first, again, you need to have OpenVR Input emulated for this tutorial to work, so make sure you install that. and make sure you get the correct version of it. There have been some bug fixes due to the recent steamVR changes. So basically, now if we go in here, we should see all of our controllers show up. We're going to now go and configure our virtual trackers to behave the way we want. So first thing, I'm going to go and disable the extra trackers it creates. It creates 3 virtual trackers. For this tutorial, we only need 1 of them. So we're going to disable the ones we don't need, so they don't cause us trouble later. Make sure I click apply. You actually have to click apply. If you don't, it just doesn't do what you want. All right, so finally we've got our tracker, which we want to be our second-hand controller. So we're going to go and leave this as default. You don't need to change anything here. And I'm just going to load a profile I've already made. So I can show you what I did. So basically what this does is it just modifies the device offsets. So device offsets allow you to move the controller to the right height. Again, all of this kind of depends on your head height. As you see, this will follow my head, and the meter value put in the shortcut we made earlier. So the most important thing here is driver from head offsets. You want this thing to kind of follow the head, so it's pretty natural. And so from the sort of, you can see where the default orientation was down here, we need to rotate it 90 degrees, and then maybe angle a little bit, possibly or not, and move it to the right Y coordinate and the right values here. So you'll notice here I only rotated 45 degrees. I don't know why, but it seems to double whatever value I put here. So the 45 will actually rotate 90 degrees. It's very confusing. And then we have here X. I just basically moved it out. They seem a little bit inverted. I'm not sure why. So basically -2 actually moves it away from you, and -10 to move it to the right. And finally, Y. These are, I think, in units of centimeters, so 50 is kind of like half a meter up. Actually, no, that's not quite right. I don't know what units these are in, but this moved to the right height for me, so it's good. You'll have to play around with these numbers a bit. And that's basically what I did. Make sure to, if you change something, just go back, should apply the change. And then create a new profile once you're done. Name whatever. Make sure to include the device offsets. Click OK. And there you go. Now you've got your controllers set up in the correct positions. The 2 extra fake controllers are going to show up at the bottom like this. It doesn't matter. They don't do anything. Again, VRChat will try to use them if you don't turn on your real trackers first. So that's why it's important you turn on devices in the correct order. So yeah, that's about it. So we're going to join you in VRChat next.